friends, family, coworkers, colleagues. Welcome to the Mayo Meltdown podcast.
All
It actually
right,
wasn't that much
dude.
of it wasn't that much of a meltdown, but I thought it was a pretty good alliteration title, Billy Ray. How are you doing, my friend? It looks like you're back in Charlotte.
Yeah, I had a great time at home. Hung out with Willie Kranick, a lot of time with the family. Christmas falling on a Wednesday kind of created like this time vortex where it felt like everybody was off for like 2.5 weeks, which was very weird. It just I feel like time didn't exist from Sunday until basically today. So I've enjoyed it. It's been great. I can't really complain.
It was a serious vortex. I agree with you. I was not feeling well leading up to Christmas. I went to urgent care on Christmas Eve. They said, Pat, you have strep throat. I said, that sucks. So I couldn't. I'm honestly I'm 100% now. I don't think I was 100% until I woke up this morning. It literally lasted like 10 plus days. So out of the woods. But had a fun-filled New Year celebrating in San Diego. Billy Ray's favorite place on the planet, aside from Blacksburg.
What a place to be around that time. It's so interesting waking up. I wasn't there on Christmas, but like in December when it's like warm and beautiful outside, and then all the tourists start to come in. It's a great place. It's a great place to be. Did you see any Christmas trees planted in the sand on the beach? I used to love that tradition.
I didn't see any of those, but we did walk and hang out in Coronado on Monday. And tradition was when we visited San Diego when Billy Ray was living there, every single time we would cross over the Coronado Bridge, Billy Ray turn it all the way up to 11, Top Gun anthem, crossing over into Coronado, windows down, and that's not even the best part. The best part is just BRM screaming, just the excitement and the pure American vibe there. But that was great. And went to the zoo, played some golf, watched my guy Liam Rafferty hit the waves.
Wow,
which was pretty impressive. And now I'm back in Kensington, Maryland. Got a little snowed in up here. So hashtag shovel season. We are here at the Patrick Rafferty household, enjoying the coziness of a Kensington winter. Actually got like 6 inches last night. Might have another 6 inches tonight. We'll see. Kind of snowed in, but good vibes up here at the Rafferty house. They're going to make fun of me for that one, and appreciate their hospitality. But we are here to talk about the bowl game.
And before we do that, because it's kind of a bummer, but before we do that, I do just want to extend some congratulatoriness to a couple of our other programs from this past weekend who had great showings. Number one, Virginia Tech ice hockey winning 6-0 against North Carolina in the New Year's Classic at Knights Baseball Stadium. Really, really cool. I know Will Trent got some awesome images of that. I thought that was really unique and really awesome to be here in Charlotte. Number two, Virginia Tech men's basketball won a conference game. Yes, it did happen. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. We beat Miami at home 86-85 with a Malijal Poteet game-winning field goal. Ben Hammond had 8 assists. Toby Lawal and Malijal Poteet combined for 47 points. A lot of fun. Really happy for that staff. Really happy for that team. I know they're working extremely hard. And going to continue to watch them grow and hopefully get some more ACC wins here. And then lastly, Virginia Tech women's basketball gets their first ACC win and Coach Duffy's first ACC win in Miami. So a double dose of just beating down Miami. It was Lynn Kidd yesterday or whatever day it was. And then it was the Cavender twins for women's basketball. Women's basketball overcame the Cavender twins and a 12-point deficit in the second half, winning the game 68-64.
And Bryce was happy about that.
Oh, Bryce must have been fired up. Karis Baker had 23 points and 9 boards. She made 7 3-pointers in that basketball game. And then Carly Wenzel with 17 points. So we haven't had a lot of cross-sport things to get really fired up about. I did want to lead with that. before talking about this bowl game.
It's a way to kick off the year. Shout out Coach Puffy for getting them right.
Yeah.
By the way, Billy Ray, I'm going to ask you to turn your attention towards the screen because you are looking at another monitor and it's throwing the listeners.
I know because my if I look at the other one, I'm looking like this, and then it looks like I'm looking down. So it's just going to have to be here. I can move the camera over a little bit though, and that might look a little bit better.
A little better. All right. Well, we got some haikus. Pete McGee coming in, kicking off the year with another poem. Pretended for weeks that mayonnaise is tasty. Now I'm disgusted. Pete McGee nailed it. But
yeah, objectively bad take on mayonnaise. Mayonnaise makes so many things better. I am a mayonnaise fan on a hamburger, on coleslaw, potato salad, pea salad, tuna fish salad. Makes a lot of things. Tastes really good. Spicy mayo too if you're eating sushi. I was disgusted by the game though, but
if you don't like mayonnaise, I don't like you. Mayonnaise, it's like eggs. It's the base of everything that is tasty. If you are an aioli stan, but you claim to not like mayonnaise, then you should take a look in the mirror and reevaluate a lot of things. It's like saying I don't like cake. Or no, that's like saying I don't like eggs, but I love cake.
Wow.
Where did we watch? Where did we tailgate? Tell me about your mayonnaise bowl experience. Your first one ever, right?
First one ever. I want to say this. Duke's does a tremendous job. Like they really do. They lean into the mayonnaise thing. I posted on the Suns feed a video of Pete reacting to, they were doing like this bobbing in mayonnaise buckets for items, which was gross, but they're kind of like leaning into the gross. It was almost like you were live watching Fear Factor. Anytime the football game wasn't going on, they had people doing like just crazy stunts. They did a really good job. The bowl game was really well done. It was cold. So we started the day off at Tavern on the Tracks, and then left that probably a little bit too late. We were there for a while and then ate. And then Pete and I hopped on some bird scooters and literally birded all the way from there to the stadium. It was about a mile. Took in the game, was very cold. I can go on about this forever. Essentially, security was crazy. I bought tickets in the 110 section, and I tried to go up to 310, and the police like chased me down, and then ended up getting bailed out by an extra ticket. Which was extremely courteous. You know who you are. Thank you.
Can I say something?
I'm not gonna rat you out. Yeah.
I think a documentary on just the adventures of Pete B and BRM running around Charlotte together just sounds like a hilarious bit of a sitcom.
Oh, we had such a great time. We really did. Casey brought his Midwest Minnesota friends that I met at the Christmas party, which was fun. Minnesota fans, there were a lot of them in Charlotte, by the way. I was really impressed by their turnout.
They're just trying to get warm.
Yeah, so everything aside from the game was great. Was cold, lips very chapped, rookie mistake, left my Blistex in the truck. But I can't say enough positive things about the experience. If you're asking me if I would have done it again, the answer is a resounding yes. And then Charlotte Beer Garden after was fantastic. It's like every Virginia Tech fan left the game and then went to Charlotte Beer Garden. I was there until 3 a.m. I was there until it closed. So it was great.
Took it in at Wonderland in San Diego. Ocean Beach. Really good spot. I know that San Diego's got like a bunch of fun beach vibes, and all the beach vibes are kind of different. You got La Jolla, you got, Del Mar, you got Pacific Beach, but you can't call it Pacific Beach. You got to call it PB. Is it OB or is it Ocean Beach?
Yeah, you call it OB.
OB
and PB.
Okay. Mission Beach, not MB. Mission Beach.
No, dude. No. Some people try to do that when they try to sound too familiar. It's Mission Beach.
You know why? Because there's Mission Bay, and you can't confuse that. We did take it in at Wonderland. RIP Bubs at the beach. Have watched the Hokies in San Diego before at Bubs, but that is no longer. So we did have our toast to sunset at the Wonderland bar. Took in the game.
California, man, it's awesome.
Took in the game with Aaron and Kirsten and Austin and Liam Rafferty and the Lees, and played some great golf on game day morning. Shout out my guy Craig, hooked it up. Hokie Man
I saw that. That was
in
awesome.
San Diego. I was like, oh my God, there he is. I heard he was gracing the shores of California this year. It seems like he's had like a resurgence, or maybe we're just seeing him on social media now. He's always probably all over the place, but good to catch up with him. Really nice guy. Mike is his real name. But I will say, had a great time in San Diego. Was definitely bummed to miss a bowl game 2 miles from my house. I've been wanting the Hokies to get to the Mayo Bowl for a long time, and then the one time I'm away, they're playing in my backyard.
I mean, maybe I'd get crucified for this. I'm not mad at you at all. I mean, if I stumbled across a free ticket to California, I would have taken it on that date. But it was great. It really was great to see the Hokie turnout and everything else. I do want to ask, because they have such a great Hokie Club presence, how many people were at this?
Oh man,
I would assume it was a good bit. Yeah,
they do a great job at the San Diego Hokie. San Diego Hokies, I know they had significant fundraising achievements in 2024. They were celebrating Matt. They did a raffle. I think they raffled off like a Vic jersey. Like, it was a really cool turnout, and good crowd in there as well. I know there's a ton of Hokies in San Diego.
Yeah.
It's a cool little contingent out there. Whether they're young, old, a lot of the younger folks moved out there during or right after COVID. So cool to see that tradition rolling strong.
Can't blame them whatsoever. So 24-10 is your final in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. And this is going to be a little different. We're going to talk about the game, but I think there are some high level things that we want to talk about. And I also do, from a schedule perspective, want to let everyone know we're going to do like a post-op of this entire season in more depth, but we are going to touch on some of these subjects today. I think it makes the most sense to start with this David Hale tweet. Again, Hokies lose 24-10. If you were there, if you watched it, it was a game and it happened. But David Hale, he said, okay, I want to sound like an old man for a bit. This isn't about Virginia Tech, but that's the game I'm at. These tickets cost money. It's cold as hell out. A loss counts in the standings and means VT finishes under 500. Miami has a top 10 season at stake. NC State had bragging rights. Pitt has a losing streak to stop. The games count in the standings. They count for end of season rankings. They matter to people paying to see them. And the players we used to feel bad for are making 6 to 7 figures now. If the bowl system is going to continue, we need to figure out a way to make these games matter for players too, or it's just another way to suck money from the public while delivering nothing in return. Now, as I look at the Belk and Mayo Bowl attendance for when Virginia Tech played in these games, 2016, we had 46,902 people there. When PP and I were at the game, we were looking around at the stadium and we were saying, man, when this game was played a few years back, the upper bowl had people in it. There was not a soul in the upper bowl at this football game. 2019, 44,138. 2024, it says 31,027. I'd be shocked if that many people were at this football game. I am not going to say that I don't care about bowl season, but it's a big bummer that we've reached this point where fans are still showing up. The games still count. Half of the country believes that it's an exhibition. Half of the country believes that it matters. And it's become so situational that I don't really know how you get them to matter unless you're just straight up paying players for it or you put it in their contract. And I think we'll get to that point. But it led me to this other point, and Pete brought this up, or Rob brought this up the morning after, is between all of these bowl games, we were in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, we go 6-6. Let's just say for argument's sake, we win 1 or 2 more games and we play in the Pop-Tart Bowl or the Gasparilla Bowl, and we have the same amount of opt-outs and we lose the game. Like, do we feel a whole lot better? We just have to get to a point where these bowl games are being played by the rosters of players that you're expecting to play in the game. Because from an entertainment value, I was entertained by a lot of the games, but on an individual fan basis, it leaves a lot to be desired.
Thank you for saying this. I got crucified about a week and a half ago for saying that bowl games are meaningless. And obviously,
yeah, I disagree with that.
That's a blanket statement, and it is situational. But you see it in the attendance, and they certainly and undisputedly mean a lot less right now than they did 5 years ago, and a lot less now than they did 10 years ago. I always like to bring up the 1986 Peach Bowl and how big of a deal it was for Virginia Tech to be invited to play in a bowl game, because there were 36 teams that got to play in bowls. Now there's more than 40 bowls. So there's 86 teams that get to play in bowls. And it's like a participation trophy. Oh, you get 6 wins? Here you go. Enjoy your trip. And it used to be like this exclusive party and a really big deal. And you could go 7-5. You could go 8-4 and not get invited to a bowl. So you had to actually really, really, really put all of your efforts and focus in just making a bowl to get invited to the bowl. Things have changed. The sport has become commercialized. Some might say over commercialized, but I am glad you said that. I'm glad we're talking about it, because something's got to give. Maybe they should put the bowl games at the beginning of the next season. So you start every season off with a neutral game versus an opponent that had a similar year to you last year. There's going to be a lot of zags on that, because what if people are in the portal? You have a completely different team. You might have a different coaching staff. But I think a lot can be done to make it better than it is right now.
No, I do just want to say I'm not waving the white flag on my argument. I just think situational is the right word. In between, the bowls mean a lot and the bowls don't mean anything. It's purely situational. Now, when I say situational, I mean as a fan watching their team play. If I'm removing myself from the Virginia Tech experience for a second, I will say this bowl season had, as a average consumer, a lot of fun games to watch. To name a bunch that I would sit in front of the television and dedicate 2.5 hours to watching again: Rutgers, K-State, Pitt, Toledo, Syracuse, Washington State, Navy, Oklahoma, Vandy, Georgia Tech, USC, A&M. Like, there were a bunch of good games. I won't name all 11, but there were a bunch of really good games. But you think of the feeling that we had after the game against Tulane, where we almost kind of reversed roles here. You had Virginia Tech, who wasn't at full strength. You had Minnesota, who was having a really good season. Minnesota finishes their season on a good run. They're going to send some guys to the NFL. Virginia Tech, disappointing season, doesn't have everybody available, and you lose a game. But for the average fan, they just spent $130 on tickets, maybe $500 on travel and hotels. It's not really fair to ask fans to do that. And it is a huge bummer. That's kind of the reality of the situation.
What would you say was your favorite bowl game? Because the playoff has been pretty awful so far. Objectively speaking, it has not been a great playoff. Did you have a favorite bowl game? I liked the Pop-Tart Bowl. I did not like having Miami minus 5.5 and Cam Ward deciding that he didn't want to play the second half. That makes betting a lot less fun as well.
I think I could go on for this for hours. A couple of things about the playoff. Playoff has the right teams in there. 12 is too many, but we're going to stay at 12, and the seeding is screwed up. If we're going to judge the playoff off of if the right teams are in or not, off of we're going to play 4 games, and based upon those results, we'll say if it's good or bad. Like, this is a sport. 2 teams are going to play, and there's a chance that there could be a blowout. And unfortunately, that was the case. On the bowl game situation, my favorite one that I watched, personally, I loved watching Navy beat Oklahoma. I thought that was awesome. From a entertainment perspective, it's kind of hard to beat that South Carolina Illinois game, because you had Beamer freaking out, you had Belima bellowing up and down the sidelines. That was just like fantastic. And then Bama, Michigan, that was another good one too. We're going to get into the SEC's performance in bowl games and the ACC's performance in bowl games in a little bit here, but I thought overall, if you watched the games, they were good. But if you were catching, here's another very poignant point, Pat. The storylines, like the Cam Ward, the Shedeur Sanders, if you're just watching First Take the day after, you're like, wow, college football sucks. And if you really dive into it, the situations kind of do suck. But if you just watch the games, to me, had a fun bowl season. Didn't win a lot of bets, but I enjoyed most of the football that was played. You kind of just got to turn your brain off and watch it and not think about the players in certain situations.
Yeah, I don't have too much commentary on bowl season, other than I'd love to see more. Not more bowl games, but more talent on the field and not, piecemealed rosters like we saw and like we're about to discuss.
I'm with you
right now. So let's segue right into that. I think the general tone of this football game from our fan base was, hey, we're kind of lucky to be here to begin with. It's nice to play in Charlotte. The Mayo Bowl is something that our fan base is kind of just like desired for a long time because we like playing in Charlotte. It is the closest metro city to Blacksburg.
Well, and also not to mention the Mayo Bowl is like a meme factory. Like they really
people watch
that. There's a lot of engagement on social. It is I enjoyed some of the festivities. Like even just the thought of I'm going to see a coach covered in mayonnaise. Pretty objectively pretty funny. So I had fun with it for sure. If we're going to go 6-6, send me to the Duke's Mayo Bowl every year. I'm fine with that.
And usually a 6-6 team from the ACC doesn't get to the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
No,
it would seem. So, I think it had a lot to do with politicking and, hey, you can't make the Military Bowl twice in a row. Or I think there was another instance where
hey, we'll get all these Virginia Tech fans to spend $150 to go to this bowl game. Let's call a spade here. If, like the Charlotte Sports Foundation, they know their audience, and
they do
probably made a bunch of money off of it.
They do. Shout out to the Leatherheads and Danny Morrison and Miller Yoho, who I believe oversees the Duke's Mayo Twitter account, the bowl game Twitter account.
Wow,
it's got an awesome name. They all do tremendous work out of the Charlotte Sports Foundation. They're the folks who do the Duke's Mayo Classic earlier in the year. I know they oversee a lot of the basketball games, the collegiate basketball games that take place at Spectrum Center.
Ally tip-off.
Yeah, I think they do Ally tip-off too. So shout out to them. But yeah, this was happy to be there, lucky to be there. Hey, we're not going to win. We got 14 guys out, 14 starters out, mind you.
Can you tell how much we don't want to talk about the actual football game?
It was one of those times you wake up on game day and you're like, oh yeah, I guess we played today. Like, let's go and watch at the Wonderland bar. Like, that's just how bowls are to me. Or at least this bowl.
Yeah, you did not feel that way last year. I'm going to have to hold you accountable here. When we went to the Military Bowl last year, we left very excited. We left very happy. We were fired up for 2024. I think, and I'm not blaming you because I think a large portion of people feel this way. It is the way that this season rolled out into this game. I was going to mention this later. There was no better. I don't think you could have painted a better 6-6 season than we got last year with the games that we won at home, the amount of times we played at night, the amount of times that we had sellouts. Like that is kind of like the best version of a 6-6 season that you can have in the regular season. Then you cap it off with winning in the bowl game. Doesn't matter who you're playing against. You're just like, watch out. Tech's going to be a problem next year. You come into this year, you go 6-6, you lose a couple of real bummers at home. You lose a bunch of bummers of games you're not supposed to lose, or you lose in the last minute. And then you go play in a bowl game and you lose. Like the difference between these two seasons is so astonishing. And on the record books, it's one win short. And it's just kind of the story of how it's told, which is why I always think it's so silly to do we have to win X amount of games for me to feel good, because all 6-6 seasons, Patrick, are not the same. They're not.
I think the short conclusion is bowl games are a product of the regular season, and your attitude towards the bowl is usually the product and the result of what happened the 12 previous games.
Yeah.
Because last year, did we have anyone opt out? Maybe one or two guys opted out or hit the portal prior to the bowl, but it was everyone who's a contributor. It was wearing those orange pants in the rain in Annapolis on that miserably chilly evening in late December. And this year it was very different. And I don't know.
You know who we flip-flopped with? You know who we flip-flopped with? It was Florida. Florida played Tulane in their bowl game. Florida has all the momentum in the world after finishing the season the way that they did. And, Florida, I'm not going to say they packed the stadium, but they certainly showed out and probably left feeling great about their football team. Whereas I feel like every Virginia Tech Hokie that either tuned into the game or specifically attended the game viewed it as an opportunity to see a bunch of old friends, which is what it was. And that's, we just want to get to a point where we're seeing friends with stakes on the field. I think that's what we're all hoping for.
The mission was to see and connect with old friends and also see some new friends on the field.
Yeah.
Guys who we have not seen yet. But guys who are out, portal guys. Mose Phillips on defense, Mansour Delane, Sam Brumfield on offense, Braylon Moore, Xavier Chaplin. Those were starters. And then sitting out for NFL prep, Daquan Felton, Jalen Lane, Bashal Tootin on offense, APR, Peebles, Dorian Strong, and Keonta Jenkins on the defensive side of the ball. Folks who were out for other reasons that were either injuries or undisclosed, Kyron Jones and Jalen Jones were both injured. And then Caden Moore was out for, I don't think it was ever put out there.
So why real quick, out. I don't understand at all why Caden Moore didn't play in the game. Personally, I haven't heard anything about it. So I'm just kind of curious why he didn't play in the game. And then also I thought it was interesting. Full transparency, I roll up to this stadium, had a couple of cold bevies, and I see number 1 in pads, and he looks a lot smaller than Kyron Drones. And I'm like, yo, number 1, Kyron Drones must have gone vegan, and 2, he has his pads on. And lo and behold, it's Ali Jennings went from free 0 to enter 1. He switched his jersey for that game. He was one of a couple of players who switched their jerseys, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. But before we get into it, should we say one last thing about Mayonnaise? Mayonnaise did of dominate this football game. Virginia Tech did not dominate. I wouldn't say Minnesota dominated us. I think it was they definitely had some bigger dudes. They were able to move the ball. But I think Mayonnaise was the true winner. I think Matt Berry, Aaron Murray, they always do a good job. They had the celebrity mascot, Tubby, running around all night long. I don't know if you guys could see that for being at the game, but they kept panning to this, this creepy looking mayo jar with the big eyebrows and the googly eyes. Like, all right, who's in there? It doesn't look like a super tall mascot. Did not see that one coming.
No.
Flava Flav? I was like, wait. And I don't know. I think Flava Flav predates our generation. Like, I don't know what Flava Flav is really remotely famous for, but PJ Fleck just kind of seems like one of those guys who was born for that type of celebration, and to see, Flava Flav be underneath the Tubby mascot, which was just great television, great entertainment. And, I commend Charlotte Sports for making the Mayo Bowl probably a top 4 bowl as far as gimmicky, fun things. Them in the Pop-Tart Bowl, I think, are neck and neck. Pop-Tart Bowl wins, but well done with Tubby.
Yeah. You wanted to say more about mayonnaise. I'm here for it.
I had it in my notes, and I was like, oh, we should have said this earlier, but let me just insert it in here.
Can I just say one thing? And I'm going to sound like a boomer here. And again, this is just us sidestepping, talking about this game. And I promise we'll talk about it next. Number 1, Matt Berry, you're better than spitting out the ice cream mayo. I was a little disappointed by that. Took a bite into it, spit it out on television. Number 2, I'm going to sound like a little bit of a boomer here. What has become okay to air on ESPN is getting completely out of control. I probably would have thought it was funny for McAfee to say wide ass open and shite on a broadcast when I was in college. But on College Game Day, you got Nick Saban cursing all the time on College Game Day. It's just getting a little out of control for 12 o'clock Eastern time Saturday television. When Billy Ray Jr. is sitting on the couch, I'd like him to be able to watch it when he's 6. I don't know when all of this became normalized, but I can't say that I love it. I do just want to put that out there as a receipt. It's getting a little bit out of hand. Not on the Duke's Mayo Bowl broadcast, but I have noticed it this year, specifically in college sports. It's gotten a little out of control. I mean, they basically made Lee Corso go out there and issue a public apology when he cursed one time on College Game Day 5 years ago. Now there's 15 broadcasts of the game, and we're cursing on all of them during the playoff. I mean, come on, guys, come on, tighten it up. It's a Disney product, isn't it? I mean, what are we doing?
Have some class, ESPN. I also think this is just hilarious because this is totally something that I thought I was going to be the one saying it and professing my disgrace, and this is disgusting. But I agree with you, and I mean, it should be a kids show, right? Like, we were watching Game Day, we were 7 years old, and now it's like, whoa, Billy Ray is known for, before he says something, cover your kids' ears. Well, they don't even have the warning on College Game Day, which is quite a surprise. But I know that was something that was bothering you. That was taking up a lot of your headspace over Christmas time. So I'm glad you were able to air your grievances here. Let's talk about the football game.
Sure.
First quarter, full of life. This was kind of a roller coaster here. Just like life is a roller coaster. Had life in the first quarter, and then second quarter was just like, wait, we are going to play dead and lay down and just let them run and pass all over us, with the exception of an absolute bomb of a field goal by John Love right before half, 60 yards. How about that? Well done. Hat tip to Mr. Love. We love everything about that. And then the third quarter was just like a snooze fest. No points were scored. And then the fourth quarter, we come back to life. We're moving the ball. We turn them over. Dante Lovett have 2 red zone opportunities and have 0 points come from either of them. So it was just kind of tough. I mean, we couldn't move the football. We had some bizarre roster management throughout the game with our quarterbacks, with some of the young guys, putting them out there. I overall think that this was a winnable football game, despite everyone that we had out. But starting out 7-0 and then only surrendering 3 points all second half, going into halftime down 2 scores. You think that you could capitalize and make some moves in the red zone, as Coach Price said in the presser. We didn't capitalize in the red zone, but I do think this was a game that could have been won. I'm not saying, you go and they were 9.5 point favorites for a reason, but I think this was a winnable football game.
So a couple of things. Number one, I didn't understand the quarterback stuff at all. I mean, I believe if I'm remembering correctly, we were switching in the middle of drives. It must have been very difficult to get into a flow. It was windy, tough, just kind of a weird situation. I know we said we were going to play both. We did play both. But I feel like it was difficult to get in a rhythm. Outside of that, this game reminded me very much as if we switched places with Georgia Tech from our Georgia Tech game earlier this year. Georgia Tech was leading early. Virginia Tech scored 2 touchdowns in the second quarter and completely shut out an incompetent Yellow Jackets team in the second quarter. I did not personally feel like this game was winnable, but I do think that we could have been more competitive. It just seemed like we were almost like not willing to take risks to try to win the game. I think Minnesota's roster was better than ours. I think Minnesota's game plan was better than ours, but I think we almost kind of were like, you know what? We're going to lose this game. Let's just kind of get to the finish line here. And again, I'm not going to put some huge vendetta on it because again, it's this game specifically to me was an exhibition, a big, dog and pony show, but I would have liked to see some more risk taking in the second quarter versus essentially what felt like dribbling the ball out in the entire second half. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. 2-possession game, pretty much the entire game, at least the entire second half, have those kind of gaps in the red zone. There was some questionable officiating, and then just the quarterback rotation. Like I think it was a winnable football game, but it doesn't matter that much. We can move on and get into a little bit of nitty gritty on the 13th straight loss to a non-conference Power 4 opponent.
Just one more time. This is the 13th straight loss to a Power 4 non-conference opponent. When I was like thinking about this game, I was thinking about, okay, what do I really want to see? Like, what do I want to get done? I really just was hoping that somehow we would end this streak. Next year, our opportunities to end this streak will be against South Carolina in Atlanta and against Vanderbilt at home. This streak has to end in September of next year. Like, it is astonishing that number is that high. And this is another notch in that baseball bat. It might be the most embarrassing thing running right now. In what is the anti of lore? Does lore have an antonym? I don't know what it might be, but it is bad. Certainly in Hokie bad.
Bad story.
Yeah.
I will say, I do think there is one win that we are owning this offseason, and it is a non-conference Power 4 win over West Virginia, because we did just pick up another West Virginia offensive lineman in the portal. So, not to read breaking news on the pod, but to read breaking news on the pod, we did pick up another. Let's see. He is a offensive tackle. Lucas Austin, former 3-star, redshirted last year, has 4 years of eligibility, joining Virginia Tech following Thomas Rymack and Kyle Altuner. So we got a center, we got a guard, and we got a tackle now. Shout out Matt Moore coming over from the West Virginia Mountaineers. And, this is kind of some return revenge from Wyatt Milam getting poached. I don't even remember if he was a commit. I don't even know if he ever committed to Tech, but he did end up playing at West Virginia, as did Doug Nestor, who was one of our best recruits from, I believe, the 2019 recruiting class. So shout out to Matt Moore. Welcome to Blacksburg. Looks like he got to campus yesterday amongst a snowstorm, and he's bringing a storm of guards, tackles, and centers with him. So, all right, the press conference from the game, Coach Pry. Offensively, we got in the red zone and we couldn't score. We get down there, we have to score. He also said we're a much better team even today than we were last year at this time, Pry said. We're just closer in so many areas, whether it's in our locker room, whether it's on the field, whether it's depth. We're just in a better place.
Could we talk about that for a second?
I think at face value, this is a hard quote to swallow, which is very much epitomizing, Billy Ray, what you said. Not all 6-6 seasons are made equal, right? I mean,
here's what I would have loved to have heard. And these are the facts. In 2023, Virginia Tech's 24/7 talent composite was 59th. In 2024, it was 52nd. In 2023, we signed the 47th ranked class. In 2024, we signed the 40th ranked class. So on paper, sure, team was better. Talent floor was raised. I really would just have liked to have heard this season was overwhelmingly disappointing. We have some things that we need to look at, and we're striving to be better next year. Like, that is really what I would have preferred to have heard. Maybe that's not the place to make a comment like that, but I don't think that comment, there's no way you win with that comment. It is impossible to win with that comment. That said, if you want to look at strength of schedule, 2023 versus 2024, and 2023, we had the 65th ranked strength of schedule. In 2024, we had the 23rd ranked strength of schedule. So we had a significantly more difficult path this year. But to come off of a season like this with the expectations that we had and a performance like that in a bowl game, nobody's trying to hear that the team was better this year. But on paper, I suppose that is true. I don't think anyone wants to talk about it, though. It's kind of like Pat. It's kind of like if you have a leak in your downstairs bathroom and it completely ruins your garage. And you're like, dude, second floor though. Second floor is great. Dry as a bone. I mean, nobody wants to hear that right now when there's 3 feet of water in the basement, So nobody wants to hear that.
You've been pretty good at the random analogies lately.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know we are very upset. And when you go out and say, hey, we'll be disappointed if we don't compete for an ACC championship this year at Media Day or in camp, I think Coach Pride comes on the mic and says it every week. We got to be better. We got to be better. But I think, yeah, you do have to take a look at the full body of work and say, hey, listen, we effed up big time. And there's reasons that Marv is gone and Galt is gone and Crooks, Coach Crook is gone. And we're going to hopefully patch up and rebuild those position groups and those units. But at the end of the day, game management was really the Achilles heel, kind of a common theme. And you can't measure locker room cohesiveness and culture. That doesn't put a win on the scoreboard.
To put a bow on it, we just shouldn't have said that. Like, I don't actually know what the question was that prompted that answer, which is unfair on my end to then speak on it. But there's going to be pushback to a quote like that. There just is. And that's where we are.
There's 2 quotes from Will Panay and Dante Lovett, which actually back up that quote a little bit more, hearing it from the inside, from the locker room, from guys who are emerging as leaders. I speak on Dante Lovett specifically when I say that about last year compared to this year. So Dante Lovett says, next year, we're not going to go look at expectations. We're going to be the underdog going into next year. And I'm not going to lie, that's probably the best position we could be in right now. Because being an underdog, it makes you work. When you see all those headlines about how you're supposed to be good, this, that, a lot of people get caught up in it. I feel like as an underdog, nobody's looking at you. You're going to come out and surprise people next year. A lot of people are going to count us out, and I don't count us out. And then Will Panay said, we had a lot of growth. We have a lot of growth to do. At the same time, I'm pretty proud of this team. The culture got better compared to the other years.
I have a couple of thoughts on this. First of all, I want to separate these 2 things. Dante having the cojones to get up there and say that and put it in the way that he put it. I'm just really excited about his future. I think he's going to be tremendous. I'm very excited he's coming back next year. And I think that young man is extremely, extremely mature. Same thing with Wilfred Penney. With that said, I look at these comments all offseason. It was ignore the noise, not letting the hype get to us. We're not looking at the hype. We're not looking at the press clippings. It seems like in hindsight, this was trying to speak that into existence, and that did not work. I am disappointed to hear that because the mojo and the feeling and everything else was so positive coming out of the Military Bowl. It's a bummer how this shook out. And I think it makes sense that it wasn't just, look, the biggest takeaway for me is you lost a bunch of games on clock management, coaching, but there had to be something else. And it seems like there was, whatever it is, some sort of culture or camaraderie or some sort of issue going on this year. There were a couple of times over the season where we had a couple of head scratching moments, whether it be, there were TikToks that were shown going around about where the ball is going during the season. Obviously, the gut punch of Vanderbilt, the gut punch of Rutgers, the gut punch of Miami. So yeah, I appreciate his honesty. I appreciate Penne's honesty, and I hope that this serves as a lesson. I just wish that we didn't have to learn a lesson. I mean, there was a statistic that was floating around. I believe since Coach Beamer has left, there have been 5 losing seasons since his departure. And all of Frank Beamer's tenure, we had 4 losing seasons. So for us to come into the season and kind of assume we were going to steamroll through the year is extremely disappointing, because there's not really another way to say it than this season was one of those lost seasons. And we've all had those with teams that we've liked. As a Mets fan, I've seen it a bunch of times. I'm sure Ole Miss fans feel that way, even though they had a resounding win over the Duke Blue Devils the other day. And you had Lane Kiffin doing victory laps after the game. But there's not really another way to say it. So I hope from a staff perspective, a recruit perspective, a person on the team perspective, this is something to look back on and say, we can't let this happen again. Because quite frankly, we can't. This was a devastating result in the 2024 season. It just was.
Dante Lovett is a guy who probably could go I'm not telling you he's an SEC defensive back, but I am telling you that I am excited that Dante Lovett is a guy who's sticking around and staying and will be playing for Virginia Tech and will be a leader as a true junior in that defensive backfield. When you got Mansour transferring, you got Dorian Strong headed to the NFL, you got Mose Phillips, who has transferred. I believe he's landed at Missouri.
Jalen Jones, Stroman. I mean, it's a room that is going to be completely retooled next year.
Yeah, so that's the future captain of the defense, Dante Lovett. Let's see. More on the game. PJ Fleck, 6-0 in bowl games.
Tremendous.
Damn near impressive. PJ Fleck would be revered in Blacksburg with a record like that. Blacksburg, Virginia Tech is notorious for not being a very good program that performs in bowl games. Tech has lost 5 of our last 6 bowl games, dating back to the Belk Bowl in 2016.
Was this the least painful? Was this the least painful? This was the least painful, I think, out of all of them. Like Oklahoma State sucked. Like that was a bummer. That team, Kentucky sucked. That was a huge bummer. The Pinstripe Bowl wasn't close. It was just we all kind of, I don't know. I didn't feel as negative going into the Pinstripe Bowl as I did going into the Mayo Bowl. I kind of think that it was like an unwritten thing that this year was going to be a bit of a bummer in the bowl game. Maybe that was wishful thinking on the Pinstripe Bowl. Maybe I was drinking some of that Stan's soup that they serve over by Yankee Stadium. But walking into the Belk Bowl, I was like, you know what? Me and Pete B, we're going to have, 25 Coors Lights and just hug a bunch of friends. So,
25. Was that in honor of 2025? It is the Beamer year. Okay. It is 2025. This is Beamer year.
This is true.
We got to see some magic here at the turn of Labor Day weekend.
This was certainly the least gut punchy loss, I feel like, in bowl games. I would say I left a little bummed, but not devastated. We've had some devastating bowl results in the last 6 years.
Neither Pop Watson or Colin Schley reached 100 passing yards on the day. Aiden Green, peak of the week. Aiden Green had his best performance as a Virginia Tech Hokie. 6 catches, 115 yards. We surrendered 21 consecutive points in the second half. That was the nail.
Why does this keep happening? Why? Like
second quarter, not second half.
I know, but like these 1 quarters, man, it's the story of the season. It almost would have been wrong for us not to have a quarter that was an absolute diabolical meltdown.
We're a 3-quarter football program. And
you don't want to see us for 3 quarters, dude.
Minnesota outgained Virginia Tech 403-223.
This is what I'm saying. Yeah, hold on. This is what I'm saying though. Like, yes, it was a 2-possession football game. Minnesota dominated this football game. They just did. Like if you look at every statistic that tells the story of a football game, Minnesota, even when we got the ball into the red zone, following that punt fumble that would only happen in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, it was unbelievable. Bounced off his head. It was almost, it reminded me, Pat, of the Sean Savoy punt from the Georgia Tech game a few years ago. Just bounced off of the, by the way, tremendous helmets on Minnesota. They looked great. But yeah, I just, 2025 needs to get here.
We're here.
Actually, no, I do need some VPI PTO, but man, this is yet again a labor of love on a podcast talking about this.
Scoring streak remains intact.
Thank God.
343 games now. Virginia Tech has scored a point. We couldn't move the ball. Minnesota was really in the backfield all afternoon. They had 5 sacks. They had 10 tackles for loss. You know, it really seemed that we were down 3 starters on the offensive line. You know, you got Chaplin, who is the biggest body we've had in the offensive line room in a really long time. And he got some good money down at Auburn, and he's going to go take advantage of that. And I don't fault him for doing that. And Caden and Braylon Moore, like I don't know if we've seen the last of them as Virginia Tech Hokies, but
we've definitely seen the last of Braylon Moore.
Sorry,
as Virginia Tech Hokie.
I was being facetious. Is Caden graduated? I wasn't sure.
I believe Caden is out of eligibility, which is why I was so curious on his sit out.
So, yeah, I mean, Pop and Colin Schlee were just running for their lives. They had a guy in their face the entire day.
Mm-hmm.
And then offensive line was not able to create any holes for our guys to run through. We didn't have a number 33, Bashal Tootin, to create something out of nothing, break tackles like he always does, get that yard after contact. Time of possession on the day, Minnesota had the ball for 36 minutes. Hokies had it for 24 and some change. Hokies were 10 of 18 for 149 yards and an interception, passing the football. Both, I guess, rather mediocre performances from both Pop and Colin Schlee. Schlee was 2 of 6, had that nice big play to Aiden Green, 67 yards.
It was a pretty impressive. To me, that was the offensive play of the game. It was impressive how he was able to create. And then Pop 8 of 12. And look, the wind was howling again. The management of the two, it kind of made it difficult to get anybody into a rhythm. But yeah, you have an offensive line that's not great all year, and then you're missing 3 of the starters. You're just not. It's not going to be a pretty product.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's was leaving that stadium saying, "Oh my gosh, Pop and Schlee played so bad they lost us the football game." I think it was, you know, when you have a line like that with some very new blood starting their first ever collegiate game, you're not going to have the best quarterback performance. Rushing the football, clearly a drop off without Tugboat Tootin. Tyler Mason carried the ball 7 times for 33 yards. Did see some, you know, kind of shiftiness from Tyler Mason. Brody Adams did lead rushers for Virginia Tech, had that big 47-yard scamper. Really excited about Brody Adams. I know he got to play a little bit with Jay Lane not playing on Friday night. Overall, 30 rushes, 74 total yards for Virginia Tech. But if you take away that Brody run, we had 29 rushes for 37 yards. That does include minus 31 yards from being sacked 5 times. So really tough. Virginia Tech football, complementary football, running the ball, playing good defense was not present on Friday night. We mentioned Aiden Green's bright spot in the receiving game. He had the sick hurdle as well. That was called back from a holding call. I'm sure you guys were going crazy in the stands.
Yeah, it was sick. One of the moments to get excited. I mean, like, here are a couple of mind-numbing things for me with this football game. First drive of the game, Minnesota goes, or we go 3 and out. The helmet punt fumble happens. We get the ball on the 40-yard line, do nothing with the ball. We end up punting, getting shut out in the second half. We had 76 yards on the entire second half on only 5 pass attempts. And when I say like we kind of just dribbled the clock out, that's what I meant. We only attempted 5 passes in the second half, and we were 3 of 11 on third down. These are all, like, every statistic we're reading right now are recipes for losing a football game. If we want to pick a nit, there were some really egregious pass interference misses, especially in the first half. And I did like to see that Coach Pry did get flagged. He did give them the business. I did like that. I've been calling for it for a while. We did get to see it. It was great. I loved it.
Other than Aiden Green, we had 4 guys catch balls, and no one had more than 1 catch. So tough on the distribution.
I was bummed out. I wanted to see Steven Gosnell get some more action in his home state. Farewell as a Hokie. I love Steven Gosnell. I really do. I'm going to miss having him on this football team. Pretty tremendous. Pour one out. Leading receiver this year. I'm not a pocket counting guy, but I think the ROI on his NIL was PG, pretty good. So shout out to our guy.
That guy's had a hell of a 365 days. He gets hurt in the bowl game. He has off-season surgery. It's unlikely that he's going to play or start the season, and he goes out there and he leads the team in receiving.
Unbelievable.
He also cracked ribs during the season. Just an absolute baller, absolute warrior guy who we're always going to be proud to call Virginia Tech Hokie. And we get more Benji, so that's good too.
Mm-hmm.
The Gosnells aren't going anywhere. Steven, we're looking forward to having you back in Blacksburg in the future as a spectator. I was going to say,
good recovery.
No eligibility left, just to confirm. Biggest nitpick on offense as well, Billy Ray, exclusive of the referee and lack of pass interference calls, was the rotation of the quarterbacks in the red zone. And it was like a revolving door. Oh my gosh. You look away from the TV, you look back, and we have Pop in after Schlee had just run the previous drive. Or you're like, wait, did Schlee get hurt? Like, what's going on? Did Pop get hurt on that last play? Like, it was just so confusing, especially when it was a quarterback finishing the drive who did not start the drive. And quarterback A gets a few first downs and has the ball, moving, and then is taken out. Like, I don't know. I don't know. You already said you don't know. I don't know. I hope we don't see that again in 2025. I don't want to see a 2-quarterback system. The only time it's ever really worked, and I kind of say that facetiously, is 2 ACC championships later in 2007 and 2008. The Vic and Tyrod, or not Vic and Tyrod, Glenn and Tyrod 2-quarterback system. But that was kind of injury-led, Defense. Bud Foster made his return to the booth, return to the sideline. He was up in the booth, if I understand. You guys didn't see him on the sideline, right?
Did not. I can't say that I was looking. I believe he was in the booth. I'm glad that I didn't watch the television broadcast. I'm glad he was in the booth because I didn't want any shots of like a video shot of Coach Foster in all of his glory on the sideline associated with that game. I just could have gone without that visual. I'm glad that we missed out on that. But he's going to have a role going forward. I'm assuming that this is going to be some sort of like Jerry Kill type role that we saw when he was in Blacksburg. Hopefully there's no mitten putting on other coaches situation like we saw allegedly that we saw when Coach Kill was here. So, but I am excited. I think anytime that you have somebody of his expertise in the building, it is helpful. So looking forward to that.
Who did it better, Billy Ray? I think it was that season too. Jerry Kill or Oscar Bradburn? If you know, you know.
Josh Vuga. He was on that 2019 team that celebrated the end of Bud's career. Full circle moment, he said for him. Believe that, the 2019 his career started in the Belk Bowl. He made it all the way through the Duke's Mayo Bowl. What a time!
Fuga, congratulations, you are old, and we love you.
We already talked about this. Second quarter for Minnesota, Hokies are up 7-0. The 3 touchdown drives for Minnesota, 9 yards, 9 plays, 80 yards, touchdown, 8 plays, 65 yards, touchdown, 6 plays, 58 yards, touchdown. Why does this have to keep happening? It doesn't have to keep happening. Let's stop that from happening. Don't want to see that next year.
Really just couldn't get the pressure on the quarterback at all. No. Without Peebles, without APR, that was kind of imminent. Mm-hmm. Will Panay, our guy, Frenchman sack, a lot of young new guys got experience, whether it was Kelvin Gilliam, who I wouldn't really call young, but he is newer. Emmett Laws, excited about Emmett Laws. Mm-hmm. That guy is going to be big. He's going to be impactful. He is a DeMatha Catholic brother of Dante Lovett. So they got that connection on defense. You got Caleb Woodson and then Dante Lovett. Between Gilliam, Emmett Laws, Caleb Woodson, Dante Lovett, those are 4 guys that we're going to build this defense on. I know that's what Sam Jesse noted in his article post-game. But that is the foundation of this next cycle of Virginia Tech defensively.
Pat, take this down. We should do pylons for next year. Like they got 4 guys on defense, 4 guys on offense who are going to be the cornerstone folks of next year. That'd be a nice receipt to put out there. I'll just go off of rip right now on offense for guys that are returning. I'll put Aiden Green on there. I'll put one of the 2 quarterbacks on there. No idea who it's going to be. But one of the 4 quarterbacks, 2 quarterbacks. I'll go Coney. And you know what? Give me Tucker Holloway. People kind of forgetting Tucker Holloway. He was an awesome kick returner last year, awesome punt returner last year. He's going to be a senior upper level class person coming back next year, coming back off an injury. If he's doing that grounding and meditation and all of that other stuff Stephen Gosnell's been doing. I mean, sky's the limit for this kid. I'm excited. There are your pillars. Boom.
I think you might need to add one more on the offense, Billy Ray, because Benji Gosnell hears you and he says, dude, why am I not getting a pylon?
Dude, put it bulletin board material right from me. I do love me some Benji Gosnell, though.
Thomas Williams looked good on kick return. I know he's a DB that some folks are intrigued by. Excited to see him get some more playing time next year. And then guys who need to take the next step. If we're doing, let's see, these are 3 guys who we need to see take the next step next year. All from the defense. Mm-hmm. Who do you think they are?
All from the defense? I mean, the biggest I'll give you an answer to this question that is not your question, but the biggest thing for me is how do you replace APR's production was incredible from a statistic perspective. How do you replace Peebles' disruption from a defensive perspective? He may not have had the numbers that everybody thinks about in terms of TFLs and, leading the team in tackles, whatever, but his disruption played a large part into APR's statistics and into our ability to either have the ball carrier bounce outside, the quarterback leave the pocket. I think he's going to have a nice NFL career, Peebles. He's a really good player. He's a great get and extremely disruptive. So that's my question going into next year is you got to have a big body in there. Is that Penne? Is that, is that Emmett Laws? I don't know. We got to find out who's going to be that disruptor and taking up 2 blockers at the point of attack.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point on the interior line, and then there's also 3 guys who I was thinking of who have been contributors, but can they get to that next level? And it's Caleb Spencer and Jane Keller in the middle, and then Keyshawn Burgos on the outside of the line. Going into 2025, working with J.C. Price. So let's move along to special teams. This was a special game.
They were special.
Special teams unit. And I think, if anything, if there was anything to smile about during that football game, if there was an, oh my gosh, that was awesome moment of the game, it was John Love's field goal. Especially considering the blunders of the season with time management, and for us to go and kick a field goal right before half like that, it was like, oh my gosh, we finally did something right before halftime. Congratulations, John Love.
The video's up there. I was, again, couple of adult beverages in, and I'm recording when this is about to happen.
If you don't already know, Billy drinks beer. He said it 12 times on this podcast.
No, because on the video, I was like, John Love's lining up for a 50-yard field goal. He's about to knock this jaunt through. It indeed was a 60-yard field goal, and he did make it. And there was like a 3 or 4 second pause where it was like, did that go in? Did that? I'm also interested to know if there's a rule against when they put somebody back there, can they jump up and block the kick? I would assume they can. I don't know why that would be against the rules. But the return guy back there from Minnesota jumped up and almost like took his arm back down. I'd be curious to know what officials would do, especially ACC officials, if somebody were to block it in that manner. But
block that kick to a whole new level. That was the second longest field goal of all time, dating back to, I know you have in the notes here, Wayne Latimer's field goal versus Florida State at Lane Stadium, which was a 61-yarder.
This was also a Belk Mayo Bowl record, breaking Brian Johnson's record in 2019. John Love
Gonzaga
is, I'll say it again, we have had unbelievable kicking on our field goal unit these last few years. We have been very blessed, especially if you've watched some college football. There have been some awful, awful teams at kicking field goals, except when they play us.
It's true.
So
John Love is on that list multiple times. He had a 56 or 57 yarder, I believe, which was the pre-halftime. Was it halftime? Miami?
Yeah, right before half.
That was an absolute bomb.
Which we also gave up a field goal after that because we didn't cover the kick. It
was really tough. Rock solid from John Love. Peter Moore, we will give you flowers. My guy, our guy. 69-yarder, pinned the Gophers inside of the 10. That's a Duke's Mayo Bowl record. Etched in history. Take out your mayonnaise box, take a paintbrush, dip it in your mayonnaise bottle, and write it in the record book. Peter Moore, 69 yards. Nice.
This was the longest punt ever in bowl history was by Gene Fisher in 1966 in the Liberty Bowl versus Miami. And this beat Peter Moore's previous record of 68 yards versus Boston College in 2021. Boston College 2021 was a fun game. That was a fun game, right? 2021, Boston College, that was Prize. No, that was Fuentes last year. Prize first year was Boston College at home, which was one of the only bright spots of that season. 2022, right? Am I tripping?
I don't even remember Boston College in 2021.
I honestly don't either. I don't know. That game might be made up. It's definitely not, but and then we mentioned already John Penix recovered the fumble on the muff punt, and Thomas Williams 36-yard kick return. Special teams have been the opposite of special this year. They were special in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. So
I think they had a special. I think special teams had a special or more special second half of the season than the first half. Every week of the first 5 or 6 games, there was a blunder. It seems like there was certainly a steady incline of performance after the midway point in the season for special teams. This might have been our best special teams performance all season. So shout out to special teams. All right. I guess kind of just wrapping it up before we move over to some staff and some roster stuff and some letters from the lunch pail. And then we could wrap this thing up because we've already taken an hour of your time. The ACC went 0-13 against the spread in bowl season. It just means less.
So let's talk about that. We all know the ACC is kind of ass right now. It just is.
The ASS.
It's kind of been, a joke here, but you say it just means less. I am an SEC guy. I believe it is the best conference from top to bottom, talent, environments, results. This was by far the most embarrassing result of bowl season. 0-13 against the spread is bad. That said, with all of the pontificating, all of the flag waving, all of the we should have 15 teams in the 12-team playoff-ing that the SEC did this year, led by Sank Dog, Lane Kiffin, Nick Saban on game day. It was so over the top. And the SEC goes 8-6. And some of these results are awful. Tennessee gets blown out by Ohio State. A&M blows a lead to USC after I go asleep and assume that my bet is going to cash for A&M. Alabama loses to Michigan, who everybody clowned Ohio State for losing to. By the way, Alabama had most of their players. South Carolina loses to Illinois, one of the hottest teams at the end of the year, and everybody's clamoring to get into the playoff. Oklahoma loses to Navy, and Notre Dame bounces Georgia. So 0-13, really bad result, but we kind of expected a bad result. SEC, really bad for the narrative. Had a tough time defending it because there is no defending it. So
this is your king when Georgia goes down to Notre Dame. How the turntables from Notre Dame getting blown out in the national championship versus Alabama 10 years ago with Brian Kelly. Now you got Marcus Freeman, who has the best win or a better win in one game over Georgia than Brian Kelly has in 3 years at LSU.
Yeah.
How the turntables, my friend. Virginia Tech brought in Matt Moore from West Virginia, who is going to be our new offensive line coach. And Matt Moore has a very impressive resume. He's done a great job at West Virginia. They've had a great rushing attack over the past few years. And really is going to help fill the void of offensive line help. I mean, you had Brent Pry go out and get Joe Rudolph, who is guiding the sleigh of the Fighting Irish all the way down to the Final Four, doing a tremendous job there. But unfortunately, we didn't retain Joe Rudolph, and we hired Ron Crook, and he has not been good. And there's a reason he is not coming back. So Matt Moore, we are more than excited for you to get started. He's already stacking the culture up front. We mentioned Wyatt Milam and Doug Nestor, and now this is our time to take advantage there. Defensive coordinator, we still don't know who that's going to be. Strength and conditioning, we don't know who that's going to be. Coach Ferg is a name that has been passed around on Twitter, on the boards. Coach Ferg is of the Mike Gentry lore and would do a tremendous job, but interested and excited to see what comes of the strength and conditioning program, because when Virginia Tech was good, it was Mike Gentry leading the way, and every single Virginia Tech student athlete who was under Coach Gentry talks about that strength and conditioning program, and it had them ready. It had them ready every single year.
Let me say one thing on this before we move on from the staff. This is not at all associated with Coach Ferg. I think he would be great for this role. Aside from that, I am out on the number one priority for making hires at Virginia Tech being, are they a Virginia Tech guy? I'm tired of hearing it. I think it is so over the top whenever one of these roles become open. I just want to get the best guy in here. And, every time a role comes open, it's like, hey, who went to Virginia Tech that should have this job? And I just want you to ask yourself, before you submit somebody for a job, would you be interested in hiring this person with that resume if they did not go to Virginia Tech? I'm okay with that in some instances. It seems like we're trying to make that the case in every instance. So I'm just putting that out there as a request as the job searches go on. before my next point, do you have anything on that?
So you're saying that legacies should not get in over non-legacies?
This is
Billy Ray has called the admissions office.
Yeah, this is siloed from the we won't get into the silly decisions of the admissions office at Virginia Tech. But one other thing I do have a question about: what is going to happen with special teams? I mean, we did just give them a lot of props, but that unit costed us multiple games last year. I know that we said we might be doing some shuffling around. I would love to see some help on the special teams unit, and I would love to see some help with time management. Those two things. We're very poor this year, and I hope that we get somebody or something or some sort of process to improve those situations. Do you want to run through really quickly just who's departing, and then we'll table the rest of our offseason recap to the next podcast, and then we're going to dive into that pretty extensively.
Lance Williams. Okay, so we'll start with the offensive line. 4 guys are in the portal or have found their next destination. That's Lance Williams, Xavier Chaplin, Gunnar Givens, and Braylon Moore. I know Chaplin is at Auburn. Givens has committed to Vanderbilt. Braylon Moore, LSU. Not sure where Lance Williams has ended up yet. And then running backs, Malachi Thomas, who is headed to Purdue, and Coach Vance Weiss. I know that Malachi and Coach Weiss have a relationship that predates Malachi playing at Tech.
James Sebest, always at Purdue, also at Purdue.
Sebest at Purdue too. Xavier Turner Bradshaw and Chance Fitzgerald from the wide receiving core in the portal. On the defensive side of the ball, Curtis Perry is in the portal. I know that there's not much commentary about Curtis Perry from the past year. He's been a Virginia Tech Hokie. Ishmael Feinlater, Malachi Madison, also from the D-line in the portal, and as is CJ McCray, who came.
CJ McCray committed to Cincinnati, I believe, today.
Yeah, good for CJ. Sam Brumfield in the portal on the linebacking core, as well as Kelly Lawson. And then we have Jalen Stroman, Mose Phillips, who is committed to Missouri, Jonathan Penix, and Mansour Delane, who is headed to Baton Rouge.
I'm going to miss Jalen Stroman.
Same. Transfer portal additions. We got 3 in the boat on the offensive line from West Virginia, aforementioned. Terrion Stewart from Bowling Green is a running back. He's kind of like a Tootin comp. We have everyone.
We're throwing that around.
Everyone's gonna be the next Tootin, right? I mean, if you're not the next Tootin, you're the next Khalil Herbert.
Reminds me of Tootin. Reminds me of Herbert. Maybe has some Ryan Williams in him. Who knows? David Wilson. Yeah. Does he do backflips? He does rap.
Optimistic Hokies. We also have Marcellus Hawkins from Central Missouri in the backfield. Wide receiver Cameron Selden. It's great to be a Virginia Tech Hokie. He's coming from Tennessee. On the defensive side of the ball, Jazari Priester from Hampton, the defensive lineman. And then 5 DBs now. Sherrod Koval from Clemson, guy out of the 757. Isaiah Brown Murray from East Carolina. Tyson Flowers from Rice. Hashtag Rice
Don't lose the food.
Is food. Joseph Reddish. Cam Reddish has a younger brother from Wingate. Yeah, maybe it's his older brother. I know Cam's a young guy, and I keep calling him Cam. Patrick, come on, first podcast of the year. We gotta clean it up. And then lastly, head to the bank because Isaiah Cash is coming. I know. Pop Watson, you're not allowed to throw any picks to Isaiah Cash in practice because he might do this to you.
We have, and then the 3 offensive linemen from West Virginia as well. I love that you have this down here. To quote Justin Cates from the Cheers and Jeers article, just let the offseason happen. I mean, if you inundate yourself in this, whatever that word is, if you inundate yourself inundate yourself in this, you're going to drive yourself crazy.
What is he trying to say?
So we'll see, and we'll dive into all of this roster stuff here coming up. Do you want to kick us off here with letters and lunch bail?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. AFR 114.
Oh man.
I'd love to hear thoughts on what happened in the strength and conditioning program. Dwight Galt had the pedigree and knowledge and focus on analytics. Any ideas where it went wrong?
So I talked about this extensively with Coach Holmes. I would encourage you to go back and check out that podcast. But to summarize it, our team was in poor shape. I felt that way all year. We played our way into shape in 2023. We tried to do the same thing this year. It just never seemed to come together. And I'm not in the room. I'm not in the weight room, but your strength and conditioning coach I am in the weight room. I'm not in the Virginia Tech weight room. Your culture is set. Don't get it twisted. I hit legs this morning. Your culture is set by your strength and conditioning coach. And it is such an important role. You cannot overstate how important this role is. From culture, they're spending more time with the kids than anybody, and you have to get this right. And whoever they bring in, get that right, because that has to be something that was a separator for us. When we were winning ACC championships, when we were contending for national championships, that was a huge differentiator from us, is weight room. So we need to get that right. And I'm interested to see who we bring in or who's elevated or what the situation is. That is as important as anybody on staff is your strength and conditioning coach.
Michael Turner says, why do the Hokies never seem to have an approach to face pressure they know is coming? No tight end involvement, no outlets to the running back, little short to intermediate passing game.
Yeah, I think that this has been a struggle all year. We have played 3 different quarterbacks this year. And this requires a lot more of a conversation than a quick answer on this. It's a very good question, Michael. I think Pop does a really good job exploring the middle of the field. I think that there was I haven't heard this from anybody. I'm just going off of what I saw. It seemed like there was a mistrust, may be the wrong word, but a lack of chemistry in the wide receiver to quarterback room for most of this season. I mean, we talked about the drops. We talked about a lot of things. And that was probably, if I had to say one room that left a lot to be desired based upon what is rumored we paid this room and the amount of talent in this room, it's the wide receiver room. So, our offensive line needs to be better. We need to have better concepts to get the ball out quickly to tight ends, running backs, and over the middle of the field. But, you look back at the Duke game, you look back at the Rutgers game, you look back at this game that we just played, we can't be giving up 5 sacks, 8 sacks. It's never going to work out for you that way. So, and quite frankly, the lack of being able to either get the ball out or block whoever's coming after the quarterback got Kyron injured from all of the signs that we're looking at this year. I've been standing on the table screaming all year that people are like pretending somehow that Kyron Drones forgot how to play quarterback. He very clearly was injured for most of, if not all of this season. So Kyron's talented. I think Pop has a lot of potential as well. Just got to give them the chance to throw the ball. And when the ball is thrown to a receiver, for them to catch the ball. So yeah, that's my answer to that question.
Sharky's shout outs. Sharky's wing and rib joint in Blacksburg. If you're catching a women's hoops game, a men's hoops game, a wrestling match this winter, any other winter sports, check out Sharky's wing and rib joint. Head on down there. Get the wings. Get the California burger. Or get some ribs. I've actually never had ribs at Sharky's.
Neither have I.
But
I don't think I've ever seen anybody get ribs.
No. Well, you can break the mold. Tag us. We'll repost it on Instagram. Shout out to the Rafferty family for hosting me during snowpocalypse up in the Nova, DC, Maryland region. Back to Charlotte at some point this week.
Hope so.
Right. We'll be reunited. We'll watch the games on Thursday and Friday. We'll go to Sushi Han. It'll be a great time. The guy or girl whomsoever in the old gobbler costume, really busting out onto the scene late in the season. My guess is that the UVA game was really cold. The Duke's Mayo Bowl was really cold. This is a cold front, if you know what I mean. This is the cold costume. Hey, it's going to be freezing. Don't worry. I got the old gobbler. It's going to keep me warm. Now, I know I've seen the old gobbler in some basketball games, so maybe that's not a good theory, but excited about that. CJ Viking III says, we need to know who the hero is in the circa 1971 giraffe neck Hokie costume.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Not to that point, but I do have something to say when we're wrapping up.
Cool. The Hokies kick off in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta on Labor Day weekend in about 8 months. We're excited to run it back in Atlanta, similar to what we did for the Nash Bash. 1,000 tickets, hundreds of you at this party at Tin Roof. We had an epic time. If you were there, share some pics. We'll post them. But we're going to do it again. We're going to do a party. We're going to try to get hotels. We're going to try to get a huge ticket block and take over Atlanta. Just like Justin Cates said, let the offseason happen. I know a lot of Hokie fans, a lot of those casual fans down in the dumps, a lot of the diehard fans down in the dumps, even the sickos down in the dumps. We're going to have fun in Atlanta regardless. And we're going to do an exclusive event for the Section 5 Club. So join the Section 5 Club. Check it out. We're going to put something special together for you guys.
Wrapping up here. I need Notre Dame and Ohio State to handle business. I firmly just plant your flag here. Let me know what you're thinking of these last two games. I think Texas is a fraud. I am sick of people calling Texas elite when they have not done anything elite this calendar year. I think Ohio State is going to handle business against Texas. The Notre Dame game worries me a little bit because Penn State, the last 3 or 4 football games, has all of a sudden decided that we're going to score points now, which Penn State hasn't done ever. So I'm going with Ohio State and I'm going with Notre Dame. I hope that's what we see. I have some amazing futures on those results. So
how many figures are on the line here?
I mean, if we're going to count my pockets here, I mean, I'll just read you one of the 5 futures that I have. If Notre Dame and Ohio State play each other in the national title, it's 25 to win 450. And then I have 4 or 5 others that are some variation of that. None of them include Penn State or Texas. They all include Ohio State and Notre Dame. So I will be one upset clam if Texas and Penn State are playing each other. Another result that I really don't want to see, I don't want Penn State, Ohio State in the national championship. I don't think anybody wants to see that. I'd watch, but I don't want to see it.
That's the Alabama, Georgia about a decade ago.
No, I'd rather see Alabama, Georgia.
That's the Tua to Devontae Smith national championship from a few years ago.
Objectively an awesome football game.
No, yes. I'm just saying nobody wanted to see 2 SEC teams play in the championship. No one's going to want to see 2 teams from the same conference play in the championship.
I did.
Is what I wanted to say there.
I like to see the 2 best teams play, but I think I just don't want to see Penn State, Ohio State. We've seen this game played so many times. And, you know, if that does end up happening and Penn State ends up winning, that would be quite a story. I just don't think that's what we would see. But who knows? Who knows?
Happy New Year. Happy podcast. We'll see you guys next week. I think that's when we should do our postseason postmortem. Get it going. Some fun off-season stuff planned for you guys. So looking forward to it. Thanks for sticking with us this year, last year, whatever. And we'll talk to you guys real soon.